Hello, it's Lavistro, Dragon of Cyberspace, coming to you with all news, tips, and tricks within the gaming spectrum. You know, with the ending of BAFTA and people saying that some of the awards were bullshit or rigged, it is time to notice that there are some things going on behind the scenes. And while I'm not talking about behind the scenes of the award ceremony itself, but rather at the gates of the award ceremony itself. For those who don't know, for the past decade, there has been another bit of infighting, shall we say, about work conditions at game industries. And to some, the answer is, well, unions that are constantly being ignored and not recognized by the industry. Now, me personally, I understand that unions had a place at a certain time, and now it has become something rather different. I do feel for the game industry workers. I've worked the industry as a freelancer myself, and I really understand their plight, but at the same time, I'm on the side of unions don't represent our individual interests. But let's discuss the news regarding this. Game developer reports actors unions protest outside BAFTA's call for better working conditions in the UK. Union leadership said they hope to catch the attention of some of the richest companies in the world. See, they're not, I want you to notice that line there. The journalist who wrote this, Diego Arguello, I hope I said his name right, points out that the union leaders said they hope to catch the attention of some of the richest companies in the world. They're not trying to attract all companies. They just want the richest. So this is money involved. This isn't for the sake of the union, this isn't sake for the union worker or any game developer, regardless of their status as a union member or not. This is all about wanting more money, not the conditions. At least that's what I'm getting from this sentence. Moving on. So, the UK Performing Arts Union EQUIY, interesting name, staged a protest outside the 2025 BAFTA Awards on Tuesday to call on video game companies to introduce union negotiated agreements in the UK. As reported by Eurogamer, union members gathered outside the award ceremony in London with placards reading "Union contracts in gaming now." So it seems like these unions aren't being recognized. And for that, I'm saying good for them. I don't like unions. I'm sorry. I really don't. I'm not anti-union. I recognize throughout history unions had their place and sometimes they do good. But lately, unions are not about the interests of the worker. They're the interests of themselves. That's how I see it. That's how the news has reported it. So if you want to blame anybody, blame the journalists who reported the unions. EQUIY claims union negotiated agreements, which are becoming increasingly common in the U.S., will help better pay and working conditions for performers in the gaming industry. EQUIY's Assistant General Secretary for Recorded Media, John Barclay, said the protest was held outside BAFTA to ensure the poor practice frequency reported by EQUIY members does not continue to be ignored by industry leaders. The video games industry is worth over £7 billion, or $9 billion in American dollars, in the UK alone, and in attendance tonight are bosses from some of the richest companies in the world, said Barclay. Yet these companies continue to ignore EQUIY's call to work with us to introduce union negotiated agreements in the UK that would improve pay, terms, and conditions for our members, something that is normal practice in the US. Actually, I don't know if that's normal practice in the US. I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I could be wrong, but when I was freelancing, I didn't recognize a lot of union workers in the game industry. Again, I could be wrong. They could be pointing out a hand-picked couple because, especially in the indie development or AA, the unions will actually hurt the studios. Nothing will get done. For AAA, yes, I can see that. Another example of where I'm anti-union is the Writers Guild, actually, the Actors Guild. When the Lord of the Rings movies were coming out, not the Rings of Power, but the Lord of the Rings movie by Peter Jackson. he didn't use the Writers Guild, or he didn't do things the Actors Guild would approve of, so they tried to get his film taken down. If I remember correctly, I remember reading about this in an article years ago. And well, look at Lord of the Rings now. How old it is still considered to be one of the best movies to watch. People still talk about to this day. People make memes of it. And from what I understand, and also I've watched the series, from what I understand, the Actors Guild and the Writers Guild weren't part of it. And I could be wrong. I'll let you look into that yourself. Barclay is referring to the efforts of SAG-AFTRA across the pond. Members of the union have been striking since 2024 to secure better working conditions and AI protections under the SAG-AFTRA agreement. Now, anyone who's been following SAG-AFTRA might notice, well, I think I got the article right here. This is from last year. One thing I want you to notice right here, everyone sees this fist, right? And they usually say, oh, this is the union fist. No, this originated from socialism. That's literally what that is. This is socialist fist. Anyone who has any ideology in socialism will use this fist. In fact, unions were socialist in origin. You say, well, that's a good thing, right? So unions were a good thing. Okay. Well, if y'all remember, they were wanting better pay, which is fair. I do believe that you should be paid a fair wage for your work. I think everyone can agree with that. And they wanted AI stipulations as well. And I agree that you shouldn't use AI to find a loophole, kind of like an OCP regarding Officer Murphy or RoboCop. They say he's legally dead, so technically he has no rights. Right? The OCP owns him like a slave. He is property, right? So I can understand that part, but what happened with SAG-AFTRA? If you remember, they got just the more prominent members of the union got better deals. The people that were new, hoping that they would have fair and equal pay agreements, but it was probably best just to not be a member, right? And there was nothing done about the AI. So, did the SAG-AFTRA unions actually succeed in that? Not so much. So far, under the issues assigned an interim agreement tabled by SAG-AFTRA that provides protection against AI voice usage, as SAG-AFTRA urges non-struck game companies to follow suit. The union has been called out alarming loopholes in some AI proposals tabled by major game studios. See, there you go. It contradicts itself, doesn't it? Over 180 issues assigned interim agreements tabled by SAG-AFTRA that provides protections against AI voice usage. And yet there's alarming loopholes. So I don't think they really succeeded in what they were doing. Just something I'm seeing on the, this is what I'm comprehending here. Barclay is also aware of the potential dangers posed by AI. Paid video game performance in UK has stagnated despite games companies receiving almost £200 million tax breaks. Performers do not have proper protection from artificial intelligence or NDA misuse, and they need safer workplaces so they don't injure their vocals or bodies, or experience improper recordings of intimate scenes. In an industry that generates enormous wealth, equity members deserve better, he added. Well, here's the thing. I was a freelancer. I work on contracts. Anything I'm not comfortable with or don't want to do, I literally have put in my contract. And we negotiate that with the studio. Now, the studio can choose at any point in time during the negotiation process to say, no, you're not doing that. And me, being a freelancer, I can say, no, I'm not doing that. But if I was an employee of such studio and they would go that route, and I express my concerns, I'm not comfortable with this, they either tell me tough luck, you're still doing it, or you're fired, right? I also can choose to relocate and quit. Granted, that is scary. I'm getting rid of my livelihood, but that is also an option. Something that people aren't willing to do because they want to stay in their comforts. But, and I'm not saying it's not true, I am saying it's just a hostile work environment that you're in, and you can't stand working there. And you're still working there. This is more on you than anything else. You should always take care of yourself. Always. But if you're still working there, then maybe it's not as hostile as you think, or you're just too afraid to move. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I'm sorry if you offend people, but you know what? I hope people that decide to get a better life, I hope they succeed in that. Regarding the possibility of strike, equity told European Retreat 4 that the industrial relations legislation in the United Kingdom is very restrictive, and said many the employment statutes, I think even statutes of equity members make it even more difficult to overcome those hurdles in this context. So maybe don't be an equity member. Don't be a union member. Think on your own. Out of the 18 award carriers for the BAFTA Awards, 2 honor performers in both leading and supporting roles. On this occasion, Alec Newland and Karen Durmar got wins for their work in the Chinese room horrors, The Wakes of D. Now, I'm just going to say that I thought it was interesting. I'm trying to stay neutral. I do have, as I admitted, my bias towards unions. I'm not totally against unions, and then that sounds contradictory. I believe that it has its uses. But I'm not against it because it has socialist origins. I'm against it because what if I don't agree with the tribe? In this case, the tribe being equity. And there are a lot of things that unions don't mention or newspapers won't cover regarding the agendas of unions. What if they don't want, I don't know, they don't like certain women from a bygone era, like in Stellar Blade or something, they work in Stellar Blade, and they want more power to remove that character. Are you not removing the writer's vision, the artist's vision in that case, because you don't want to work on it? I think that you should work on things you want to work on, but I think if it's the artistic vision of the artist, I think, and you're not the artist in this case, you're not the one who drew the characters, you're not the one who wrote the game, you're not the one who wrote the game design document, you're the one overseeing things. I think you should probably go find another job. There's always people looking for 3D modelers, you always people looking for texture artists, UI artists. It doesn't have to necessarily be in games. Or you can swallow your pride and go work for an indie studio or do something like that nature. You can make it if you're a hard worker. But sadly, a lot of people come here thinking they're going to be rich. Well, what do you think, viewer? Maybe you can change my mind. Put your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, happy gaming.
Worlds clash in endless collision. Gaming news with a fierce precision. With a spark so wild it breaks the norm. In the tempest eye of cyberstorm. Reclaim gaming and Dragon Cast. Fire breathing wide, screaming loud. Lavistro's here to shake the crowd.